Hello, everyone. Another episode of Green Healing Show with Dr. Tami Meraglia. Finally, we had a chance to talk. We're going to talk about hormones and stem cells on Ponta Calhor. And if you want to continue watching this kind of episodes, you can go to Ponta Calhor Transition channel in YouTube and my podcast platform. Be with us till the end. We're going to have very interesting discussion today. Welcome to my show, Dr. Tami Meraglia. I'm very excited to have you after few times rescheduling. We finally find each other.
I'm
And we're gonna
honored.
talk, yeah, thank you. And we're gonna talk about hormones and stem cells. Why did you put this distinguished together? You tell me. And before that, I really want you to talk about yourself, your story, and how do you do what you're doing right now?
Well, I started late in life as a medical practitioner. I danced professionally in a ballet company for many years. So that wasn't your typical
That's
route.
very different.
Yes, exactly. But it helped out with stem cells because, I had a lot of injuries. And so I understand physical medicine and owned a physical therapy clinic for a while years ago. But, I went to traditional Western medical school. I'm an MD, and I loved learning all the science. And what I found is that the vast majority, if not everything, was focused on diseases and conditions. And even the preventative exams and appointments were really not about prevention. They were about finding diseases at early stages. So it was still disease oriented. And time again, I would have mostly women, but men come into my clinic for an appointment. And they would say, I don't feel myself. My energy is low. I've got, 10 to 25 pounds that just won't budge, even though I'm doing the same tricks that I used to do years ago, eating less, exercising more. My sleep is disturbed and I've lost my joy. I'm not enjoying life. And I would run the usual tests, CBC, thyroid, iron, all those things. And I would tell them they were fine when they came back. And they say, but I don't feel fine. And that's when I realized that fine is a 4-letter word. And nobody comes to the doctor or even wakes up in the morning and says, gosh, today I want to feel fine. We want to feel fabulous. And that started my journey into naturopathic integrative functional medicine, which was more about prevention and more about optimizing using tools that you, as the CEO of your own health, could actually have access to without needing a doctor and a prescription. So I studied and did a lot of work in the naturopathic world, and I ended up blending the two. So I've had for almost 20 years a functional medicine practice where I am an MD and I can write prescriptions. And if you have high blood pressure, you bet your booty I'm going to write you a prescription until we get it down and can treat it holistically, or treat it holistically, because I think a blend is the best way. Traditional medicine is great for handling urgent problems. It is not good for optimizing health. And then with regard to stem cells, I really didn't get into it as a doctor. I got into stem cell medicine as a daughter. My father had a very serious lung condition called COPD, and there's no cure for it. Once you get oxygen prescribed by your doctor, that's the beginning of the end. That's the last chapter. And that's what happened to my dad. So I dove in to the research, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And, I had the mind of a doctor and the motivation of a daughter. So great combination to unveil what is out there. And I kept bumping against stem cell. Long story short, my father was my first patient. He did end up getting off oxygen. Um, and that was the beginning of me realizing that regenerative medicine and stem cell medicine was really my calling. I really wanted to be part of changing the future of medicine where we don't do cutting and drugging as the first choice.
That's so interesting because in my last book, Gap, I had two more regenerative medical doctor, and they said the same thing. I see the functional medicine really change everybody's life, and I believe that uh, conventional medicine and integrative medicine should work together, and you can separate them.
And, a lot of times a stem cell procedure can take some time. For example, if you put stem cells in a petri dish, it doesn't just like within hours become new cartilage or new bone or whatever. It takes time. And that's a good thing, right? Because really, really fast growing cells are called cancer. We don't want that. We want our cells to follow Mother Nature. But, I started realizing through a lot of influence through people like Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I'm blessed to know well. And he was in my docuseries called The Healing Secret. He was one of the very first stem cell researchers in the United States. And what he discovered is that the environment, the epigenetics, could have an enormous effect on what the stem cells in the petri dish did or didn't do. So I started thinking, gosh, well, what about, all the hormones and nutrition and microbiome and all of that I've been studying for the last decade or so? Could that support stem cells? And so I started thinking about gardening and how if you put the most amazing seeds into sand, it doesn't matter that you have great seeds, you are not going to have a beautiful crop at the end of the season. But if you put great seeds or even average seeds into a fantastic, rich soil, you're going to have a great outcome. And then I started thinking, our bodies are the soils, and the stem cells are like the seeds. I bet you we can optimize our soil. And so I blended the two things that I do and love, and every single solitary patient who has a stem cell procedure has a complementary, holistic evaluation to try and, for lack of a better term, up level their soil.
That's amazing. So, what kind of disease do you cure by stem cells?
It's important to point out that we don't cure anything in stem cell or regenerative medicine. In fact, the FDA and Attorney General and FTC and all these government agencies have stated very clearly that, in their opinion, there isn't enough reliable scientific research to have these FDA approved. And last May, they chose to set out some guidelines severely restricting what can and cannot happen in the United States. So much so that I closed my clinic in Seattle. I had been working with a clinic called BioRenati Stem Cell Clinic in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, for a couple of years. And it's in a private hospital. And in Mexico, stem cells are approved. So the first thing is to say, well, that we don't cure anything. Just like any other kind of medicine, it works for some people and it does nothing at all for other people. And, we don't really think about that, but it's true for everything. You take an aspirin and sometimes it makes your headache go away and sometimes it doesn't. So we just have to make sure that people understand that this is an exciting and new form of medicine, but we're at the early stages and we don't know why. It works for some people and it doesn't work for other people. Of course, my opinion is that when you work on the soil and you optimize things, that it can only help. But, it's important to make sure that I'm not misleading anybody and saying, well, we can't cure it. And the FDA doesn't think that this is valid yet. So that's why it's outside of the United
Is
States. You'll
that
have a really hard time finding it in the US.
mostly for injuries, or you do other things with stem cell?
There are stem cell regenerative research and clinics that are helping patients with orthopedic conditions, autoimmune conditions, cardiac, lung. There are some early research clinical trials in the United States and around the world that are using it for cancer, autism. I mean, really, it's an exciting time. There's so much going on in the world of regenerative medicine, and I can't wait to see what we learn and how we can decide. I always think when we first discovered penicillin, I bet you the doctors are like, yes, we can get rid of all infections. And then we're like, oh, wait, it's not working for anaerobic bacteria, and it's not working for encapsulated bacteria, and it's not working. So now we have many, many different classes of antibiotics that work completely differently. I bet you in the future we'll find out that perhaps umbilical cord stem cells are best for a particular set of diseases, and bone marrow is best for a particular set of diseases, but we don't know yet. What we do know from early research is that we have seen improvement using all of these types. So it's so exciting to be part of this new and emerging type of medicine.
Thank you for explanation. And tell me about your book.
My book?
Yes.
So my book is called The Hormone Secret. I wrote it a few years ago. I was very blessed to have it become a bestseller and have it published by Simon and Schuster. And it's really a 30-day guide for you to have everything I would tell you if you came to me for an appointment without a prescription. But there's also a whole chapter on how to fire and hire a doctor, because I want everyone to remember that doctors are actually serving you, or they should be serving you. And if you don't feel like they're supportive, if you don't have a good communication with them, then you should fire them because they're not helping you. It's a relationship, it's a partnership. So the book, The Secret Hormone, is actually testosterone, and specifically testosterone for women. We only need a tiny, tiny bit of testosterone, but it has an outsized role in how we look, feel, and function. And in our clinic in Seattle, we see patients telemedicine and in person. We dive deep into the hormones at the beginning, because I found that people feel better right away if their hormones are optimized, not just balanced, but optimized. Now, I don't want you to have the hormones of an 18-year-old if you're 58, but I want you to be optimally your best at your age.
That's interesting because you think that testosterone is a male hormone, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and same thing with the progesterone, which is not a male hormone, but still men need it.
They
So
do.
that's interesting. Yeah,
The book has a quiz and it helps you understand what your hormone deficiencies might be. And then each chapter goes through estrogen, progesterone, it goes through cortisol, which people really forget about, thyroid,
exactly.
and testosterone. And it gives you all of the tips on what nutrition, what supplements, and what lifestyle tips that you can use to reboot and boost your own levels of these hormones without a prescription.
So, what kind of patients do you have mostly?
People always think that I have like 99% women, but it's probably 70-30, 70% women, 30% men. We have a bunch of teenagers, believe it or not, because their hormones are affecting anxiety and depression and their cycles and their skin and acne. So we're digging into that. We also don't stop at hormones. We create customized programs where, microbiome and DNA and adrenals and all of these have to be looked at. Then we have pre-menopause and menopausal women and andropausal men. So kind of late 30s, 40s, all the way up to my oldest patient is in her late 80s.
Is that possible? Somebody who had a early menopause, let's say in early 40s, get back to cycle again?
I don't know if we want to. Mother nature, we have to analyze and research, well, why did this happen? Was it because of a problem, or is that just your normal? The longer that I'm in medicine, the more I realize that everybody is different and that a precision, personalized approach to medicine is the only way to go. It happens with food and diet, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto, fasting, intermittent fasting. I mean, like, oh my gosh, you can get so overwhelmed. The more you read, the more confused you get. And it should not be a guessing game. It should be based on testing. And so we dig in to the data and then find out how you're doing, how your family history is, what you're feeling, what you're struggling with, how much stress you have in your life, all of these things, and create a customized program. We have memberships because I was driving several years ago around Christmas time, and all these gyms were promoting like their membership for the New Year's resolution. And I was thinking, I actually have a gym membership. But my gym membership at my medical clinic is for the inside of the body. And
Interesting.
so we created an affordable way for people to have an MD in your back pocket,
I
a
love it.
trainer.
What do you have on your website?
Okay, so we have things that we offer in our clinic, some hair and skin procedures that are super amazing. I used to own a medical spa for 13 years, and I still do the holistic rejuvenative things. So, like microneedling with PRP and hair and vaginal rejuvenation and things like that. We have our memberships where people can get customized approach, and we dive deep and look under all the rocks. We don't wait till there's a problem. We go looking and optimizing. And then we have a really cool program called On Your Own Time. So if you don't really want to dive deep and you don't have the time, energy, whatever it is, to become a patient, then, for example, we can send you a kit to analyze your vitamins and minerals. And then we create a video of what our recommendations would be as if you were sitting with us, but you can view it on your own time.
That's interesting. Good.
Well, trying to
So you
respect.
do some of the thing like virtual, right?
Yes, yes, we do. And then the clinic in Puerto Vallarta does everything from a week long medical full immersion where we do blood tests and imaging and vitamin IVs and more than one stem cell treatment in joints and face and hair. It is a full immersion into regenerating. So that program is called Regenerate. And then we have a mini one that's 4 days long. And then we have a la carte for people who just say, you know what, I just, my knee hurts. So we create a program or just a treatment for them. But you don't get out of getting a holistic approach. You're stuck with that and there's no extra cost.
Beautiful. So, do you want to add something at the end of the podcast?
I do. I think that I would inspire people to remember that optimal health means that nothing can shake your abundant energy, your clarity of thought, and your ability to have deep connections and contentment in your life. And it involves three things: structure. So, if you have something wrong with your knee, if you have something wrong with your brain, you're going to need to get that fixed. Two is chemical. That's the nutrition, because nutrition and supplements get broken down into chemistry and hormones, but also the chemistry outside of us, all the pesticides and toxins. And then the third thing that's never spoken about, but is probably one of the most important things, is electricity, frequency. Every single cell in your body has an electrical charge. And it turns out that our mind can alter the frequency of every cell in our body with meditation.
Interesting.
So every patient of ours receives an online course plus a device that they can listen to with brain beats. And so it meditates you, because we want you to change from the inside out and from the outside in.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being here. My voice was not really good, but I didn't want this to lose this opportunity because we rescheduled a lot.
I
Hopefully,
appreciate you so much.
hopefully we can have you again in a better
I would
situation.
love that.
Yeah,
Have a
thank you.
beautiful day. Thank you.
You too, you too. Please subscribe to Quantum Calhoun Transition channel and order my book, The Gap, in Amazon. Thank you for watching.